coffee. I've loved coffee for a very long time. I co-wrote some books with my brother who's filming tonight, coffee many years ago. That kind of what got me into the food blogging world was actually coffee. So it's very happy to have Brian from Milano Coffee. Him and his wife Linda own Milano Coffee, and they've grown it quite substantially around Vancouver, but not only Vancouver, they win awards all over the world. So please join me in welcoming Brian.
That was a lot of fun, man. Just listening to Karen talk about East Vancouver. I also grew up here. I grew up actually born and raised in 2236 Garden Drive, and my phone number was 255-6452.
253-7894.
And you didn't have the 604, and you actually had to have that in kindergarten so you could get your star on the board. And but I'm actually I would be almost first generation. My folks were from Ukraine. My grandpa left when a lot of Ukrainians were getting gassed, and a true story. So he came here in the early 20s and lived in Richmond, was a farmer. He came from 7 generations of farmers, potato, beets, all like strawberries, potatoes. He was really good at it. I love potatoes personally. I was brought up with a single mom. She always told me she had no money, so when we go and eat, she says, it's Thursday night, we're gonna have taking you guys out to eat. So I always just got French fries, it was only 25 cents. But anyways, I'm in coffee. I know everybody likes coffee somewhat. I bet you, how many people do drink coffee here? Yeah, that's good to know. I picked the right business, that's for sure. But just so you know, the Vancouver coffee scene started in Commercial Drive. It was called Little Italy. Matter of fact, just lately they voted the drive to be called Little Italy once again, which is, it's honest, But when I got into coffee, it was around 1982. I ran with a really tough crowd, and I kept running the other side of the street per se, and started hanging around Commercial Drive. And it wasn't like what it is today. Remember, this is pre-Starbucks. This is pre any coffee. I used to be a guitar player, and I graduated with I graduated with ceramics. Food, 12, Mrs. Sawyer. I did actually good in that. That was probably the best I did. But I graduated from Templeton with food, ceramics, and general business, and it's actually defined what I do for a living now. But anyways, I got into coffee at a young age just simply because I had no money. I was a guitar player. I did the Commodore. I played the guitar, backed up a band called Saga. And anyways, we got a big recession around the early 80s and the 90s, where I started working at a young age. I was able to get a job just like that in those days. You get the union job, whether it be at the docks or there's jobs galore, American Can. But this recession hit, and I couldn't get a job. My life depended on it. So I started running, and I used to run like 20 miles, like just 3 hours, just every other day, every day. And I guess I dream a lot, and I listen to music with the headphones on, and music makes me dream. I've been playing guitar for around 40-something years now. But what happened was I started running, going for these runs, and it needed to be social. I'd run up to Commercial Drive, and it was not what it is today. It was all Italians, and nobody frequented coffee bars there, especially women. There'd be more human rights issues if it was today the way it was back then with the Italian coffee scene. But just what is interesting is the Italians invented everything to do with coffee when it comes to processing it. They invented the roaster, they invented the espresso machine, the grinder, and the coffee that goes in that type of coffee extraction, the espresso machine. But anyways, at around 1982, 83, I was hanging around Joe's Cafe, and I used to write music, so I'd be at home working all these songs, had a 4-track, and I'd have all the music because I can't sing, or I don't like my voice anyways, by any means. So I would basically run up to the drive and put my headphones on, and I found out you could hang around. The coffee's around $1.50 for a cafe latte or a cappuccino, and you can hang around there pretty well all day. I mean, if I saw a bunch of people want me to sit, I'd get up. move and that, just because Joe would kind of look at you like, I need to make some money, you're hanging around. And so they basically kick you out. So no problem. I just thought, man, I'd like to be able to do what he's doing. This guy's making a lot of money. He's super grumpy. He's like the soup Nazi, if you ever saw Seinfeld. He was super rude, and everybody liked it. Everybody just kind of smiled, and it was kind of funny. But one day, I was sitting out on a Saturday at Joe's Cafe. It was around 1984, 85, and he was early, and he says, Brian, he had a suitcase with him. And he says, please, stick around. I have a lot of money in here. He was about to buy a third of that block where Joe's Cafe is and the Portuguese club. He had $750,000 cash in his suitcase. And he knew I was a runner, so he said, just in case, you get it for me. And I go, okay, Joe. And I was like, you got that type of dough? And I'm just like, honestly, I was on welfare at the time. I couldn't get a job. Couldn't even get unemployment because I couldn't get a job. And I just thought, what's going on? This is like every negative thing, one after another. So anyways, lo and behold, I was there that day, and I kind of saw the future of this. I said, man, you just get one of these machines and make espresso coffee. The only thing is, nobody even knew what espresso coffee was back then, you guys. This is pre-Starbucks. So I started telling everybody about what's going to happen in the future. I'm going to get a cafe and serve coffee, and they all would look at me and just go, my nickname was Turk, and they go, Bri, or Turk, like let me just save you some money. You're going to open a cafe and charge $1.50 a cup when you could drink at Denny's or Beano's all day for like 30 cents? Like, you're not thinking this through. And it was discouraging, so I just kind of thought, oh yeah, maybe not, You start kind of listening to people and that. But anyways, I kind of knew all the coffee bars in the city. There were 7 of them. Most of them were on Commercial Drive. And just go into, move up a little bit, this girl I knew, an Italian, knew I liked coffee, so she bought me a stovetop, the mocha pot that you put coffee in. So that's when I started looking around, going to the Italian stores, because there wasn't a lot of local roasters at that time. Continental, Colaria, and Francesco was just coming on the scene, the owner of Milano. But anyways, lo and behold, I started having a knack for making coffee out of this little stovetop, and I'd kind of try to do the milk and steam it, and I started making a good cup at home, and people would come over and say, "Oh, this is really good, Brian. What is it?" I go, "It's this coffee thing I was telling you. That's going to happen in the future." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, it's good, but how are you going to make money out of this? What are you going to do? Bring this and we can bring it to your house?" And serious, you guys, it's funny when I think about it, because this is going back around 35 years ago. And so anyways, I'll quicken up a little bit. I started to get to know some of the roasters, and I didn't have a lot of money. When I was younger, I'll be straight up, I was on the other side of the fence, so I kind of knew, gee whiz, I just need to sell myself 4 pounds and I get one for free. And I'd go to the roasters and buy 5 pounds and sell one to my mom, one to my sister, one to my neighbor, and maybe make $10 in a pound of coffee. And anyways, it wasn't happening. There was no coffee bar scene. It seemed a little dismal. People really didn't get it. And it's kind of funny, because I know everybody here spends $8-10 a day on cafe lattes and the works. So anyways, I met my wife years around 1986, and she had a passion for coffee. I would say, "Oh yeah, I go drink at Joe." She goes, "Oh yeah, I drink there too." Or another place called Chow on Denman. It was owned by Mosconi's and Danny Amoroso. But anyways, it still wasn't really popular. It was just it was going nowhere. Just like I listened to Karen, just that zeal of an East fan. I just love that fire, because you get a lot of this stuff along the way. So anyways, my wife and I, we got married, and just had a little baby girl, and we were always having to move because we didn't have a house. I was doing security in the film business. I thought, because I was going to be a cop, I thought, if anything, I had no record, I'm going to be a police officer. But you needed 2 years university at the time, so that was out of the question. I couldn't go back to learn I wasn't very focused. I'm a bit of a dreamer, you know. I like to run, I like music, and see things in shapes and patterns, you know, colors and stuff like that. So anyways, we were living in this place just on 4th and Penticton area, and all of a sudden they says, well, we're going to be selling the house that we were renting. So next thing you know, we thought, well, we had some money, let's put in an offer for this house. And so we offered $265, and they went, sorry, we're asking $325. So, okay, we ended up finding an equity co-op, first in East Vancouver, put 5% down, and you can live up, you know, just off the drive or on the drive. So anyways, just like the old immigrants, you know, we just thought, gee, you know, we're going to live up top, and wouldn't it be a dream to be able to have a cafe? Well, we didn't have any money. And long story short on this, I called one night, it said 99% lease. This is Turk's, the original cafe on Commercial Drive. It was the first indie cafe, non-Italian indie cafe in the history of Vancouver. And that I grew up there, so I knew a lot of Italians. I grew up with old people because my grandpa lived with me. And I had a lot of respect for older people and got along with them. And kind of got a lot of favor. I did work in an Italian coffee bar, but they let me go after speaking up for myself once when they were kind of putting you down a little bit. In those days, they would do that. So anyways, I phoned this number and I says, hey, it says you have 99% leased. I'd like to inquire one of these. And the guy was just like barking at me. Well, what happened? 10 minutes before I called, the original lease guy who leased it pulled out of the deal. He didn't want to be in the deal. So in essence, the guy had to sell it, to, you know, give me a chance. And he says, well, what do you plan to do there? I says, I'll put a cafe and an espresso bar. And he goes, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're doing? I said, well, yeah, I do. And he says, this is an Italian-Portuguese area. You sure you know what you're doing? And I says, yeah, I grew up here. I know, like, no problem. I know these guys. You know, I used to see a lot of these guys driving up Seymour with ladies of the night, a lot of the... and I told them one day, if anything happens to my place, you know, I see you guys driving up Seymour. And I knew a lot of these guys. Oh, Brian, he's a good boy. Don't bother him. You know, he's good and this and that. So anyways, just had our daughter, just moved upstairs where Turk's is, right across from Grandview Park. And it took us around 8 months to put this together. We didn't have the money, we didn't do it. My wife kind of said, this is your thing, you know. But what really got me was she was working at a place, and actually a really well-known hotel, and they wanted her to manage. And then when she found out she was pregnant and wanted to get a medical and dental, they started trying to fire her and give her a hard time. I was trying to get the union, Teamster Union, the film business, during around 95, 96, and everything went south. And I just went, Linda, you know, this is before we got Turks. I said, why don't we just, you know, get our own place? I'll make coffee and you can manage it, you know, rather than manage for someone else. And it was a dream, but we were, you know, a lot of things weren't going good, like a lot of young couples now. You're looking at the housing market and things like that. We didn't have any money. We had maybe $18,000 saved in the bank and put most of that for a down payment. But anyways, lo and behold, we opened Turks. It took 7-8 months to build it out, which was good because the building kept getting closed down all the time. So it was work for us. So it took us 8 months to put this together. I did all the painting and everything and the drywall and this, that, the other thing. So we finally get it open. Finally start doing good. Get, you know, best espresso, best new cafe. We're using Milano coffee. His espresso was out of this world. He was the original consultant for Howard Schultz at Starbucks. And a matter of fact, in '97, the year we opened Turks, Howard Schultz himself went to Milano to buy Francesco's intellectual property. He was one of the only guys in the world, or in North America, with authentic artisan class espresso coffee, and not just one type. He had around 6, 7, 8. He left Robusta. It's a whole other conversation to talk about all these different coffees, because I'm supposed to tell the story of where I come from. But anyways, we started doing really well. Next thing you know, Francesco says, Brian, I have to go. I go, what do you mean you have to go? Like, go where? Because he says, I got to go back to Italy. And we just couldn't sell any coffee. We were kind of stuck on really good espresso. Once you have good coffee and you understand it, it's another world. So anyways, I says, well, what are you doing this for? Like, this is my dream. I thought I was going to be in the coffee business. And he says, well, you come up with the money, but I don't think you have the money. I know you hardly have any money for Turks. And I says, no, man, just let me know. Like, if you sell it to anybody, I'm out of here. I'll drop your product tomorrow. Anyways, he says, okay, that's the deal. I'm not leaving for 3 years. I thought, oh, great, we're going to get it. 6 months later, Brian, I have to go. And it was just one thing after another that happened. It was a hard task. But we ended up coming up with some money. Very funny how it all came together. But my dad had some property that almost got expropriated by the Surrey municipality to make like a sewage runoff. It was below sea level, but that didn't happen. So we're really fortunate. It was still farming land, and somebody wanted to buy it from my uncle, and we had a little part in it. And it was literally the $30,000 we needed, or it wouldn't have happened. Like, you know what I mean? You have this great opportunity, and you don't have the money, you can't do it. But the funny thing is, that $30,000, it was actually $500,000 for the intellectual property. And that's what I like to encourage people, is there's a real difference between authentic espresso and people who call it that. It's kind of like the olive oil thing, you know what I mean? They're mixing it with mineral oil and this, that, the other thing. But anyways, we ended up pulling it off with our brother-in-law and bought Milano Coffee. Just so you know, we didn't want to buy a roasting company. Like roasting, it's manufacturing. I was listening to Paul and Jason talk about the business smarts it takes to get this stuff going. And Linda and I, we just wanted to serve coffee, play guitar, her do her arts, and just hang around the community and make friends. Next thing you know, we're in manufacturing, there's all this competition, and people are all of a sudden, all the people that wanted, were nice to you, coming to your cafe so you'd buy their product and their coffee, are now not into it. They're your competitors, man. They do not like you. And it's just like, you just wanted to sell great coffee. But what I noticed that, backing up a little bit, is at a young age, I discovered I have a really a good sense of smell and taste. And I was really fortunate to be able to distinguish different coffees. You always hear coffee should be floral, fruity, spicy, it should be nutty, like pistachio, this, that, the other thing. Tell me the last time you tasted coffee like that. I know, it's very rare. So anyways, I got transfixed on this thing. So once we took over Milano, we built the cafe up. My wife, like some of the other guys that were talking, Paul with the Lavateur and the new place, my wife's been in the hospitality business since she was 15. So I could do coffee, but she does cafe like nobody's business. She knows, she's worked the hours, she's done it. So and she has an amazing palate. So anyways, I don't know what my time is here, because what am I? Couple minutes. Okay, so anyways, I was told by Italians I'd never know what espresso is. You would never know. And I'm Ukrainian, right? But I was brought up in Little Italy. But the fun part was I had a palate, and your palate tells you the truth. It's the eyes and the eyes and ears of your mouth. You got approximately 8,000 taste buds: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. And you guys know about all that. But what's really interesting is coffee has 4 elements, which is body, flavor, aroma, acidity, and it's totally correlated to your taste buds. It's the elements of coffee, but characteristics of coffee need to be like pistachio, cashew, almond, spices like vanilla, cinnamon, cardamom, flowers, bergamot, roses, lilies. That sounds really fantastic. And so I got really involved with believing this. You could get these great flavors and these great coffees when you buy Cup of Excellence, like very expensive coffees, but not a lot of people want to drop $12 a cup, especially if you want to be in the coffee business, because it basically became a place for people to hang around that didn't have a lot of money. That was my case anyways, and it's like the affordable luxury, and so forth. So we started doing retail, or wholesale, which we weren't great at. We just wanted a coffee bar, you know what I mean? And lo and behold, my friend Francesco, the guy I bought Milano from, was kind of moved at my passion, and I started asking him some questions. I called him in Italy, and he goes, Brian, how would you like if I come back and I put in my 35 years on your shoulders? He worked for Musetti, which was one of the founding fathers of espresso coffee in Italy, still a family-run business. So he learned from them. They had around 30, 40,000 hours. Francesco took his knowledge, made it his own. He had 30,000 hours, and I had no hours. I'm a cafe owner, but I really got into trying to figure out this little drink, which is 98.5% solids and 1.5% water. You know, it's acidic. Most people put milk with their coffee. But anyways, he taught me how to do this. I did 15,000 tastes and around 1,500 combinations and around 15,000 to 20,000 tastes. He wanted me to learn, asked him why he put me through all that, but he says, Brian, this is what the Italians went through over 100 years. I wanted you to feel the pain, because coffee is not really pleasant in espresso shots. But we're really fortunate that he came and he taught me, and then he left me, and I had all these questions. And to this day, now we've the only company literally in the world to win 10 gold medals through the IAC of Italy, which is the most astute espresso. It's from professors of like biochemists and professors of sensory analysis. So what you do, it's all blind tasting, it's all done professional, and it's a little exciting when you sink into something and you have a passion for it. You see it way ahead of you. People told you it exists, all these types of coffees, and you don't see it out there in the norm. And we're in a market that is very generic market, as you know, the McDonald's types out there, and there's some new guys coming up, which is really great. But to work with these coffee characteristics I'm telling you about, blueberries and pistachio and this great balance, to get this type of coffee would cost you probably around $60 US a pound. So it was my goal, being brought up in a very poor part of town and hanging around cafes was my kind of redemption for a young age of being social. So it was my goal to put together, if it was possible, these flavor profiles that had all this stuff that was really important, like the positive characteristics of coffee. So anyways, we have created these coffees and these lineups of coffees that are literally, they have fruits and not acidic. Imagine citrus with a high pass filter. Imagine where you get a nice acidity but blooms into like a brandy or orange or blueberries, but at the same time you got almonds and pecans. Coffee is really interesting, and we just are really fortunate anyways to be able to get to a place where we've basically are conquering the world from Vancouver. And our blends too are rated with, few in the world do this, but they're from 8 to around 14 different varieties in one blend. I may as well do the pitch here, what we sell. And anyways, so anyways, I'm really excited that in the next little while, we're going to be putting these new products out. It's the Espresso Masters Vintage, which is these espressos I'm telling you about. I personally source coffees from around the world. I meet people right from these farms, like it's the whole, you've heard a lot of this chit chat about direct trade and that, but what I found out is just like olive oils, each different region has, you could be buying, say, Brazilian coffees. You could have some that are this characteristic, that characteristic, whatever. So what we do is we find these characteristics that are unique. You could get a Brazil with 5 different characteristics. You get Colombians with 10, 20 different characteristics. So what we've done is put these together to create coffees that it's almost like, we're not genetically modifying them, we're just basically building them from the outside in. But if you have a chance, if you haven't heard of Milano, I tell you, I encourage you to come by we just have a couple of stores because we wanted to keep true, because coffee's a food and it goes bad fast and it should be fresh and stuff like that. So we're not into making the super big bucks, but we're really proud of putting out the best coffees in the world right now coming from Vancouver. And we're going to do another competition this year. It's in China. And one night I woke up, I couldn't sleep, and I wrote out this recipe, and I went to work right the next day, pre-blended it, did it. It's a 20-bean espresso blend. And it's really exciting. That's why I'm a little bit, kind of, my mind's on this competition, so I'm not super lucid here telling this great big story of my past and that. I don't want you to know a lot of that stuff. But I chose coffee and not cocaine. And yeah, seriously. So if you do get a chance, knock yourself out and find out that there is these beautiful tastes. So we're going to be branching out with the Black Series, the Cafe Am, and the Espresso Masters Vintage in around the next 3 or 4 months. So hey, I hope you guys come in and try it. And if I'm there, I'd love to have an espresso with you and make it simple and enjoy it.